Hello and welcome to the Goldenrod Podcast. I'm Ben. As always, I'm joined by fellow Pokemon enthusiast Conor to bring you some of the latest and greatest Pokemon news and a few laughs along the way. This week, we're discussing what Pokemon traditions Gen 10 needs to take a break from. And in our Devil's Advocate section, we'll be discussing if Pokemon Rom Hacks are taking all the good ideas. As always, you can jump to a topic using the timestamp in the description below. Conor, before we get started this week, a treat for our YouTube viewers, and I'm surprised you've not pointed it out, but I'm kind of glad. Have you seen my massive scar that I've got on my head? My new scar.
Again, there's been issues with Discord, so I haven't got great footage of you. But yes, what happened, buddy?
I got attacked by a tree.
A tree?
You ever seen the Whomping Willow in Harry Potter?
I have.
Well, it was nothing like that. So what happened was me, my wife, and my daughter went up to a hill to watch some fireworks. Wandering back down, and there was a branch there with a sticky out bit, and yeah, so that was fun. So yeah, I now have a scar. So I just wanted to address that,
Ben,
in case people mention it. Yes.
Do we need to have a conversation? Is your wife beating you?
Listen, I fell into that tree.
Yeah, okay. Do you know, I only asked because it was an excuse I used once after I got into a fight on a school camping trip.
Didn't. Oh, no.
It was horrendous, right? So, to cut a very long story short, I got into a fight with like 6 guys. I came out on top. I didn't throw a punch, but I came out on top.
Nice.
But I got somebody swung at me from behind and cut the little edge of my eye.
Yeah.
If you've ever seen boxers, you'll know just pours blood.
Yeah.
It's really bad. Tiniest little cut, lots and lots of blood. Went up, had to go and see the teachers to get it stereo stripped and stuff like that. And they were like, "Oh, so what happened?" "Oh, I was running through the woods and ran into a tree."
Did they believe you?
Every single other person who got dragged in there squealed. Every single one of them sang like a canary. All night I sat there, was like, "No, I ran into a tree. I don't know what to tell you. I ran into a tree."
Yeah, funny enough, something similar happened at when I was at high school. Got into a fight with this other lad. And it wasn't like a proper fight. It wasn't like swinging fists and everything. I was like 14 at this point. We just had a falling out. It got physical. Everyone then, like, you know, as they do in high school, they all gather around you in that ring of death almost.
Fight.
Exactly. And at that point, we were both like over it. We're like, no, actually, we don't want that. Of course, the teachers come in, grappling through, grab us, drag us back into the thing. And we'd fallen out at this point. And the teacher went, "Right, I want to know what's happening." So without missing a beat, I was just, we were just play fighting. Then everyone thought it was real. And the teacher just like froze, like, "Wait, what?" Turned to the other person. It was like, "Yeah?" And they would go, yeah, that's what happened. He's like, "Okay, get back out there, but no messing around anymore." And we managed to get out of some detention as well. And we didn't even resolve the fight, to be quite honest with you. No. We just kind of, I think people just wanted to see it, as they always do at high school. Although I'd imagine it's a bit different nowadays. I can't see kids being like that. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. I don't
know. People care about each other a lot more nowadays.
Yeah.
Like, the Zoomers and Gen Alpha are very aware that the world is cruel, and they decided not to be cruel to each other because of it.
Which I love.
Beautiful. Love it.
Yeah,
good on
it's
them.
Absolutely fantastic. Whereas back in my day, it was like dog eat dog. It was like survive in whatever way you can throughout high school. But this is a Pokemon podcast, and people obviously want us to, talk a little bit about Pokemon and not our past. We do have a quick follow-up question following our discussion last week on the new Nintendo guidelines and what potential impact they might have on YouTube and Twitch content creators. This comes courtesy of TwinShift on YouTube, who says, "I wonder, considering how the rules are formatted, will that also mean that they can take down old content that does not align with their guidelines?" What do you think, Conor?
I think from a legal standpoint, yes. Yes, they can. I really hope they don't, because that's going to cause massive issues for so many people. Like, it's one thing to be like, they've released these new guidelines and I'm going to choose to ignore them going forward anyway. And it's another to be like, oh, I better go through my back catalog of the last 4 years or even longer for some people and delete anything that's ever had anything to do with ROM hacks or randomization or anything of the sort. It seems excessive.
I'm pretty sure, like, legally in the UK, you can't be, if you commit a crime before the law is introduced, you can't be charged for that crime. They might try to get you on other technicalities, but I'm pretty sure that's the ruling. Now, if we were to
it's not law, it's copyright. It's different. Well, copyright is obviously a law, but it's not.
But the point, I know what you mean. The point I'm making is very similar to what you're saying about, like, if they go, okay, we introduce this guideline on this X date, anything before that, you know what, fair game, you can keep it as a kind of olive branch to appease some of the content creators. If they go wholesale, nah, it really doesn't matter. That morally doesn't feel right because people haven't had the chance. Like, you're punishing people for rules that didn't yet exist, or at least weren't as strict. And that's the difficulty here, I think, is where are they going to draw the line, if anything. But like we said last week, we don't know what's going to happen as a result of this. I honestly think, thinking back now, I don't think anything's going to happen except
I've seen so few people talking about it. I've seen even less people reacting in any way to it.
I think a lot of people are just like, oh, this is just Nintendo doing what they do, like talking a big game. But obviously Nintendo realized that if they come down hard on content creators, there are going to be knock-on effects. And I think that maybe they don't want to have to deal with those. So it is just a case of, here are the guidelines so that if we do need to go after somebody who really has just broken the guidelines, like torn them apart and done something that we completely cannot condone and we have to shut them down, they've got an avenue to do that.
See, the worst thing is I don't think that's how they'll use it. I think they can now pull this out if they've got a grudge. As we were talking about last week with the whole Point Crow thing.
Yeah.
They can just go now, well, actually we released guidelines and it says you can't do that. Oh, but you don't enforce those across the... No. They're the guidelines. We don't have to enforce them. It's not quite the same as copyright law. We've decided that this is too far. And you've got no argument then because they did release the guidelines.
I am, like you said, I'm amazed that I haven't seen this more anywhere, to be quite honest with you. Because surely is like YouTube and Twitch should be looking at this and going, okay, this is what it means for our content creators. And YouTube, for all the, stick that YouTube get for some of their practices, they are quite good in terms of, oh, you're a content creator, here's all this information that you need to support you being a content creator, so long as you keep within the guidelines. They're very good with that. So I'm surprised there hasn't been anything around this.
The whole... As much as the flagging system for stolen content on YouTube is misused and not the best system in the world, it is a very good compromise to let us have YouTube at all.
Oh, yeah, agreed.
Like, if we had to go through the same hoops as somebody who made a film to have some music in the background, to, for instance, go and record a video of your sister's wedding and upload it to YouTube for your brother in Australia who couldn't attend for him to watch. The hoops you would have to jump through because there's a song in the background. You just get to bypass that on YouTube. Yeah. So I don't think the copyright system is great, but I don't think there's a better option at the moment.
I honestly don't think there is a better option because the alternative is to have a perfect system, which I don't think you could ever get, but to get a near perfect system, the amount of staff that YouTube would need to employ to manage and monitor that, because of how much gets uploaded to YouTube daily. It is just a ridiculous amount. It's crazy how much is uploaded to YouTube every day. So what's the system we can have? The system that we've got, which, well, like Conor says, has its pitfalls. It at least allows you some level of ability to challenge both ways, in terms of, no, they're using my content, I'd like to challenge that, or vice versa. No, this is fair game, I'm using it for whatever reason. It's a tough one, and I think it's just going to be one of those where when something happens, we'll know about it, because a video will start trending on YouTube from a content creator, with a sad face.
Nintendo tried to take down my channel.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is what it'll be.
That is exactly what it'll be. Let's move on to another question that we've had submitted over on YouTube, courtesy of Mika Bryant. If I was designing the DLC, I would have Briar unlock the potential of the time machine so that you're able to use it and travel and return, depending on your version, to either the future or past within the interior of the Great Crater. And they mentioned, I haven't got it here, but they said that they would limit it just to the Great Crater, because that allows them to contain some of the scope. Because I can't imagine, I remember when we were talking about, the entirety of Paldea, or areas of Paldea would have that future or past ability, which never came around, unfortunately. I think that the Great Crater, the crater is a good compromise there. I think that could work. Now, let's break this down. Do you think that's going to happen?
Okay, I don't. And the reason I don't is because Violet would be infinitely better. Because what really changes in the past, the Great Crater just doesn't have those buildings that are down there. It doesn't have the time machine. And then you open up the question of, like, well, if you can travel back, because there is a time machine, but there's not a time machine in the past, how do you get back to the present? How does that happen?
Yeah, and it's already stated in the game, right? That hey, the dog's here. It's already stated. I have no idea if Connor's going to be able to hear this, but I'm just going to keep talking. I'm pretty sure it's established in the game that is it one way? No, it's via Pokeballs, isn't it? That's how the time travel mechanic works.
The Pokeballs can travel both ways.
That's it.
Pokemon who have been converted into data or energy can travel, but with humans, it's very much one way.
Yeah, so I don't see how, unless, I mean, there's always writing mechanics that you can employ to kind of go, oh yeah, something's changed.
Well, you've got down in the Great Crater, you've got the inscription on the weird metallic.
Do we know what that is yet?
We have no idea what that is yet. Nor do we know what the circles are within the hidden little cave. So it's possible, with Briar being the descendant of Heath. Heath was the first person to interact with Terrapagos. And we know that he woke up and he had a bunch of symbols and stuff written out that was like I think he says it's in his handwriting, but he doesn't remember writing it, or somebody told it to him, but he doesn't remember who they were or what that kind of thing was. So it's possible that Briar, being a descendant of his, could gain that connection to Terrapagos again, and therefore unlock more of the time machine. So you had Sada and Turo, who were working off Heath's notes, were able to decipher so much. We're able to get terrestrialization to work. We're able to get the androids to work, and we're able to get the time machine to work one way. But Briar can come in, and after speaking to Terrapagos and hunting it down and getting that same connection Heath had, can open it up further.
Okay. I like that idea a lot. I love that idea a lot, and honestly, I would love to see the AI robot come back, the android. I would love to see, and I think that kind of, I'm for and against that. I'm kind of against it because like it finally had its own agency at the end of the game. It was able to go, no, this is what I'm doing. See you later. And to kind of pull the AI Toro or Sada back feels a bit, like I can't just let that AI rest and have, I wouldn't say a happy ending, but it had an ending that it chose.
It chose.
At long last. Yeah. But I would like to bring them through again, just to have those conversations and find out more about the past and the future, because they could go wild with, oh, this is what it's like in the future, this is what it's like in the past, because let's be honest with you, we're never going to see those in the game again, I'd imagine, or we might never see them in this game. But the other thing that you mentioned about the metallic slabs and then that area with the circles on the floor, how likely do you think that us returning to Area Zero is literally just investigating those?
Those
slabs?
need answering. They need answering.
So I agreed. I want them answering. I want to know more. But we've said we're returning to Area Zero. What if this is, I don't want to say bait and switch, but that's the word that's coming to my head, like, of you going back to Area Zero, but all that is go and read the couple of slabs and then go to the area with the circles and Terrapagos is just there. How disappointed would you be with that?
Sorry, say that again.
So, you know, we said that we're going back to Area Zero.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And we've discussed in the past about, maybe you get to go further down to Area Zero and see all this fantastic new area that has been unexplored up until now, when what it literally could be is you're going back to Area Zero just to read a couple of slabs and then go to an area that is already there and Terrapagos is just there. And you get a little cutscene with Briar.
That feels a little bit more Game Freak to me, I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, like when you
Briar finally gets permission to go down there, goes, oh, wow, this slate is amazing. I wonder where it came from. And then that's it. That's you just draw attention to it again.
That's it.
And then, you go into that hidden cave and Terrapagos shows up there and that's it.
I
could very much see that being the case.
Yeah, I'm glad that's not just me. Honestly, it does feel like a very Game Freak thing to do. And I hope I'm wrong.
So... What quick thought for you. You're talking about like AI Sada or Turo coming back. What if, and this is a stretch. So there's a part in one of the journals that says that man or that woman, depending on what game you played, walked out me right after the boy was born, talking about Arvin's other parent. Now, I think I did a video with Toby that basically said we thought that meant was she took Arvin, or they took Arvin and raised them for a while, whilst Sada or Turo was still working on the time machine, which I still think might be possible.
Yeah.
Or it's the case of whatever parent is in the game raised Arvin in the crater for a while and then took him to the lighthouse once Miraidon or Koraidon came through. That's still very vague, and we don't really have answers to that. But what if the idea of they walked out on me was their understanding of the situation? I woke up one day and they were gone. They just left. But what they didn't realize is they'd actually gone to the past or the future, which means that you could play Pokemon Scarlet, get Briar to come down into the Great Crater, unlock the back and forth with the time machine, and suddenly Turo comes back from the past. Or in Violet, Sada comes back from the future.
I like that.
I think it'd be I think it'd be a lot of fun. As you say, I think the AI needs to have the ending that they had. They had their choice.
Yeah.
But I think Arvin deserves something.
He does. Honestly, like Arvin was the character in that game that I think most people related to. I think if you had to say who did most people relate to, and I'm just pulling this out of my bum. So Arvin is the one that most people related to. Then Penny, because of the high school bullying and the issues and all that kind of stuff. Then Nimona, because Nimona's just Pneumonia you can take
super
out
into
and put in any-
Pokemon. Can you imagine somebody being super into Pokemon and just wanting to talk about it all the time?
Could you? For free, by the way. So Pneumonia, yeah. But I think Arvin, out of the three of them, Arvin still has a story left to tell. And
Yes.
that is the other parent and Arvin's thoughts and feelings on that. And the only reason why I bring that up is because I don't recall at any point Arvin mentioning the other parent.
No.
And maybe, this leans into what you're saying. Surely if Arvin had been raised by the other parent,
he would miss them too.
He'd, and mention it. And so I'm...
Whereas if they actually left just after he was born, he'd have never known them to miss them.
Yeah, true.
Whereas it's like, oh no, the one that raised me then ditched me.
Mm.
They were there. They as far as he was concerned, they were still alive. Arvin, it's just such a heartbreaking story.
Which again is why, Game Freak missed a trick with this game. Arvin should have been the main character and should have leaned more into this, his journey or her journey, or you still allow that character customization, but it's very much they're part of this world, this story already, rather than a protagonist. But yeah, that's what we get, unfortunately. But just to bring it full circle, I would love to see a past future variation of an area, and honestly, I think we missed a trick with that, because Game Freak for the longest time have published two versions with minimal amount of changes or variations on the two, and this could have been the time to go, no, there is a reason to get two outside of just a few cosmetic. It is, no, we've designed a whole different area just for you that have purchased this game, or the other game. Would have been really nice. I don't think we'll get it with the DLC. I think honestly, after the conversation we had, the more I think, I've got a horrible feeling returning to Area Zero is going to be lackluster, and I hope I'm wrong. I'm praying that I'm wrong, and this second piece of DLC just knocks it out of the park.
I hope so. Again, I still find it very odd that we have two professors.
Yeah.
Because, yes, their designs are different. One, represents the future, one represents the past. But they could have just looked like scientists, and I don't think anyone would have read too much into it.
And I know they represent the future and past, but the only representation of the future and the past are the Paradox Pokemon, right? There's nothing else in that game that's time critical or time. There's no real. It is really. Literally just the Paradox Pokemon, isn't it?
Yeah.
Which again,
considering that in Black and White we had Opaloosa City, which was literally a different town. It was a different city depending on which game you played. One was based on the past, one was based on the future.
It's so. It's Game Freak does what Game Freak does. It's so disappointing, and I don't want to harp on about Scarlet and Violet and the issues with that, but the DLC, it just has this opportunity with this next piece to deliver so many of give Game Freak due. Arvin's story was really heartwarming and really pulled on the heartstrings, and we potentially have the opportunity for them to do that again with Carmine and Kieran in the DLC, and Briar as well. Who knows? We shall see. So it's going to be interesting. If you've got a comment or question, you can reach us by leaving a comment on our podcast on YouTube, by emailing goldenrodpod@gmail.com, by leaving it on our Discord channel, or by using the hashtag goldenrodpod on Twitter. Let's talk about this Game Rant article that we discussed recently about Pokemon traditions that Gen 10 needs to break. So, Connor, should we run through each of these one by one?
Yeah, let's go through what they've said, and then we're going to give our own thoughts and things we want them to break at the end.
Fantastic. Let's start with the first one. And I don't think this is a surprise to most people, but fire, water, and grass type starters. Do we need to move away from these?
I'm not sure. I think fire, grass, water have been really good. I think it's a staple that works, and I think with the dual typing that you can include, I don't see a reason to step away from it. I understand the want to have like steel fighting fairy or dark psychic fighting, whatever the case may be. But I think grass, water, fire really just works the best, and as that triangle, I think I've sat down before and tried to work out another one that works quite as well as that. Because not only are they all super effective against each other, they're all equally resistant to one another. And that's not a very easy triangle to find.
No, it's not, unfortunately. And I think, by the way, Connor, I can't see your webcam anymore. I think that maybe the way they get around that is they do something similar to what X and Y did, where you get 2 sets of starters. So you get your traditional fire, water, and grass. And then later on, they could mix it up and go, well, here's your steel, fairy, fighting, or whatever the other combinations are, dark, psychic, ghost, whatever they wanted to do. And maybe that's the way that they do that, because then you still get your traditional starters. But then it gives other Pokemon a chance to shine, and there are other Pokemon out there that do feel like they could be, they've got that kind of starter design, in the typical, 3-tier evolutions and stuff like that. So I think maybe that's the way that they do it. So the way I kind of look at these different things that they're pitching, it's how do I feel if that got removed from Gen 10? And fire, water, and grass is one of those weird ones. For the longest time, I've said, yeah, let's ditch that. Let's drop it. But we're 9 generations in, including Legends Arceus, so let's say 10, of doing fire, water, and grass. And I actually feel like that is what, when you think of Pokemon staples, things that are there every generation, that needs to remain. Because, we've all seen the videos of, here's my baby and I've got a Bulbasaur and a Squirtle and a Charmander plushie. Which is the child going to choose? And it's just that consistency throughout, that no matter which generation you join or start Pokemon, it's that consistent starting point of, it doesn't matter which generation you pick, you've still got that traditional fire, water, and grass. It's the first thing that you do outside of maybe naming your character. And I actually think that, I actually think Gen 10 needs to lean probably harder into this, actually. And maybe instead of moving away from fire, water, and grass, maybe they mix up fire, water, and grass. Maybe they, straight off the bat, they have a secondary typing, or straight off the bat, you get to choose 2 of them. I don't know. I think they need to switch it up, but keep those 3 typings.
So I think fire, water, grass is fundamental to new players. I think you need that for people to understand one of the core mechanics, which is typings and the type chart and how they interact with one another. And that's become more prevalent in recent years with, your starter Pokemon having an actual grass, fire, or water move from the off.
Yes.
So that you can find out very early on. It's like, oh, my starter is either super effective against yours or it's not. And I think it's hard to find another trio that is as intuitive as fire, water, grass.
Yes.
Like if you gave a child a 5-year-old, here's a fairy, steel, and fighting Pokemon. Of course, the fairy Pokemon is strong against the fighting, and of course, the fighting Pokemon is strong against the steel, and of course, the steel is strong. It just doesn't make.
It doesn't.
It's not intuitive enough.
No.
Whereas fire burns grass, water puts out fire, and water makes grass grow, so I guess grass is strong against it. Sure, I can get that. I can wrap my tiny little brain around it.
Yeah.
So I think that needs to stay. I think the secondary typings can be played with a little bit more. I think the
we have seen that.
Yeah, I think the Gen 6 starters were probably some of the strongest because they had that fighting Psychic Dark trio as well.
Yeah.
I can't remember. And then you had like Gen 4 had, they were all strong against the one that was otherwise their weakness. The grass and ground, fire fighting. Yeah. Okay. Maybe not that one. But what was it?
There was one generation. So
Water Steel. No, it was.
Yes, Water Steel. Yeah, Empoleon was super effective. No.
Steel isn't necessarily super effective, but it then did allow it to resist. Yeah, okay. So there's room for improvement.
No. You are right. So the different X and Y. So every one starter was better than the other one in the triangle. So Water and Dart beat Fire and Psychic both times. Fire and Psychic beat Grass and Fighting both times, and then vice versa. Gen 4 flipped it where Water beat Fire, beat Grass, beat Water, but then the secondary typings reverse that. So you could have a matchup against the Pokemon you're technically weak to, but you would still have strong moves against it. So Infernape was weak to the Water type moves, but its fighting type moves were super effective against the Steel type of Empoleon. So that was the difference between Gen 4 and Gen 6. So there must be
didn't quite nail it with Empoleon and Torterra, unfortunately. But again, this is why trios are not easy to find within the type chart that we have.
No. I mean, what I potentially look at is whether or not you could do Fire, Water, and Grass, and maybe their final evolution gives them an immunity to those. But again, like you say, there's no easy triangles. But I get, you know what? If we are going to stick with Fire, Water, and Grass starters, which I think we should, I think the abilities need to be mixed up a little bit and not just hidden abilities. I'm a little bit bored of, the typical torrent. If it drops below, 33% health, then it gets a booster. Like, move away from them. Maybe that's how we do it, is your starter has an immunity to, whatever you
So you just have a grass Pokemon with Flash Fire.
Yeah, like something weird like that.
Just a water Pokemon with Sap Sipper.
Yeah, there you go. That's how you do it.
And a
mix
fire
it up
Pokemon with Storm Drain. Yeah, you could do it.
There you go.
How busted would they be for competitive, though?
Absolutely broken. But the way you get around that, I'd imagine, is, when they reach that final evolution, they've now got an extra weakness because of they've got a secondary typing, and that opens up more weaknesses. I think that's how you get around that.
I think what we've landed on there is there's still a lot to play with when it comes to Fire, Water, Grass, and ditching it entirely, it feels like a bit of a mistake.
Yeah, agreed. I'd be happy from Gen 11 onwards, but I feel like Gen 10 is like, nah. If you've got
Gen 10 needs
Gen
to be
10.
the culmination of everything that's come before it.
Exactly.
So to throw out the very first choice you make feels like a mistake.
Agreed. So the second on the Game Rant article list is friendly rivals. So they make the point that ever since Generation 2, they've predominantly been friendly. You've got May, you've got Barry, who, N isn't a friendly rival. Let's be honest, N is up there, one of the most.
I wouldn't even necessarily say that Sharon's that friendly. Like, he's your friend in name only.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. Blue wasn't exactly as much of an awful person as people make him out to be. Like, he said, smell you later. But he calls you pal. He calls you pal at one point, and quite often he's like, "Oh no, I'm just here to test myself against you. How you doing? How's your Pokedex coming along? You doing okay? Cool." Like, he's not as antagonistic as we make him out to be. Silver is the only truly antagonistic rival we've ever had, and I guess I should say N was straight up an antagonist. And the thing is, I don't think friendly rivals are an issue. I think one-note rivals are an issue.
Okay.
I think Hal is... I actually really like Hal because, again, the first time I played through Sun and Moon, I played through it with Tommy, and he played Hal as just the most hyperactive person in the world and just gave him so much energy, and I fell in love with him. But I can understand why people don't like him because he's one note, and he doesn't learn anything, and he doesn't go on a journey. Okay. As opposed to Hop, who is another friendly rival, who I think gets more flack than he deserves because he's a well-written character.
Agreed.
I think, and the worst rivals, I'd say, are Gen 6. Because your only actual rival are Callum or Serena, who basically have no character outside of, I'm the Pokemon trainer who left the same town as you, who actually cares about being a trainer. And then you've got the dancer, the nerd, and the one that fancies you. So you see what I mean? I've got no issue with them being friendly, because Nimona is a fantastic rival. I think she's great. I love her as a character because she's written well.
Yeah.
I don't mind them being friendly as long as they're written well.
And I think when people come up with these lists, and I've had conversations with people that go down the same wavelength of now they need to move away from friendly rivals. But the thing with Game Freak, and it is one of the things that they do well, for all the criticisms that we have of Game Freak, they never repeat the same rivals. They're always a different variation on that rival, or what it means to be a rival. And I am actually okay with more friendly rivals so long as we don't get a repeat of what we've already had. And honestly, I don't think that is ever going to be an issue with Game Freak, because, as I've said, every single generation, yes, you have a rival, but they're different than the rivals that have come before. Saying that, though, I would be okay with taking a rival and having them be a bit more antagonistic, but I wouldn't want to have the level of, Silver every generation, because that would tire me out eventually. Like Generation 6, I was annoyed with the rivals until you rightly pointed out, no, see them more as your traveling companions. And you know what? When I replayed that game, it made it a lot more enjoyable, because suddenly, instead of being annoyed when they're following you through, I can't remember the forest, which...
the first one that you go through, yeah.
Like, I was like, oh, actually, this is really enjoyable, because as you're running, they're all running with you, and you're all having a fantastic time. And I enjoyed it a lot more. So, yeah, I think I would like to see more of an antagonistic rival, maybe for Generation 10, but I wouldn't want that every generation.
So I'm going to come at you at a slightly different perspective on this now, where every antagonistic rival we've had to date has had a positive character arc, and it's that positive character arc that people really enjoy, more so than the rival being antagonistic. Blue starts off as a little bit headstrong, and he's a bit full-on. By Gold and Silver, he's running a gym, and he's, Red and him are mates. Silver starts off as an actual villain, as a thief, and then learns to love his Pokemon, and you teach him the right of his ways. Gladion, another antagonistic rival who you teach the error of his ways. Even arguably Bede is an antagonistic rival who or through the journey learns to be less of an... He's
more Hop's rival, but he's more Hop's rival, I think. But
I agree.
He is a like the first time you meet him, he just gives off that aura of, oh, this guy's a bit of a douche and he's antagonistic. But then again, you get to see his journey done very differently than Blue and Silver and all these other ones.
So I want that same arc. I'd love to see it go the other way. I'd love to see you leave the town with somebody who's your best mate, and then you beat him, and you beat them, and you beat them over and over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And something just snaps.
Snaps.
And they just go off the deep end, and suddenly they don't want to be friendly anymore. Now we're actual rivals.
Yeah.
And I could see them maybe like You could even play up I know we're going to come on to evil teams in a minute, but you could play up the idea of them not necessarily joining the evil team, but them trying to get the legendary of the game for the wrong reasons.
Yes.
They're in it for the power because they need to be strong. They have this urge. It's something I'd have loved to seen with Hop, because as I say, Hop really is the protagonist of that story. You're the antagonist, and you win.
Yeah.
So I would have loved to see Hop take a villain arc, but something like that, where you have a character who has this journey, has this story to go on, and you just keep getting in their way, and something just snaps in them. I think that'd be phenomenal to see, because we, as you say, they do something different every single generation. We haven't seen that yet.
No. Do you think, and this is a bit of an aside, it's slightly different. It is slightly different, but we've kind of seen that with Kieran, where he does have that point where he does snap, he punches the wall, and the circumstances are slightly different. But
yes,
that's similar to what you are describing. Do you think...
Yeah, no, it is. That is exactly what they're doing with Kieran, isn't it?
Yeah. Do you think...
He is on his villain arc in the next part of the DLC.
Yeah. So do we think the next part of the DLC, we will get what you've just described, where actually maybe there isn't a positive resolution at the end? Maybe there is just a hint. Like, villain. Okay, we're not going to redeem him, but we're going to give a hint of future redemption that will likely never be told.
No, I don't think that's how it's going to go. I could, again, very much see Kieran being the champion when we finally reach Blueberry Academy. He's the champion of their local league that they've set up, and has made himself... I'm top dog and everybody's beneath me. And that's his attitude. And, we saw Kieran when he was very shy and didn't want to be around anyone and was a little bit scared to say hello. So, but I don't think they'd ever leave it there. I don't think they'd ever leave it with, like, no, you beat me again and I'm just going to continue on this arc now. And no, I think it would have to resolve of, oh, you've shown me the error of my ways. Because it's a kid's game at the end of the day. That's
the problem. I think that's always going to be the issue with having non-friendly rivals. But I tell you what, I know it's not Generation 10, but I could see it working very well in a Legends game. Because Legends...
Because Volo doesn't get redeemed.
Not at all. And they seem to be happy dealing with more mature themes in the Legends game. So I think that would have really worked quite well in that.
It could. Okay, I'll retrace my steps a little bit. It could work that he doesn't necessarily get his redemption at the end, but he has to fail by his own hands. So much in the same way as like Cyrus. Cyrus had an option to, like, you've messed up here. I've solved the problem for you. Do you want to not be a bad guy anymore? No, I'm going to follow this through and I'm going to go into the distortion world and live my life there. Much in the same way as Volo was like, okay, you beat me, but I'm going to go off and continue my devious ways elsewhere. It's that thing of, I'm going to try and catch you falling off the cliff, but you attacked me, so I dropped you. I didn't kill you. You died by your own hands. I think that's the only way you could make it work.
I like that as well. Let's move on to the next one. Dad's out of the picture. We have only seen one father, which is the Norman from Generation 3. Sorry, one father of your character.
Main protagonist, yeah.
Yes. And Norman's the only one. The article did say, Professor Oak is kind of your surrogate father in the first game, which I don't agree with.
No, he's not. No, he's not. I can see it in the anime, never in the game.
Yes, agreed. The game is literally, here's a Pokemon, see you later at the end of the game, I'll pop in for a couple of lines of dialogue. That's it. But I think this is one that actually, quite strongly, Gen 10 does need to break. It's a really strange... I don't understand why they did it. I don't know if you have any insights into why just the father not being there just seems to be the thing. Do we have a lot of, designers and developers and GameFreak that their dads aren't in the picture, and that's just what they gravitate towards. Maybe I don't know. It's just
so I think there's two explanations for it. One is that parents in Japan quite often work away from their family. It's a very common thing. I think I brought it up in a recent video. It's called Tanshin Funen, which basically just means like my family lives here and I work elsewhere, and that's just how our family dynamic works. It's not uncommon. But the other thing is it's just the Disney effect. Why do all Disney characters have one dead parent? Because it's just less characters to include.
Yes.
And I think, especially in earlier generations, if you have a father in this world, you never want your father to be nobody. You don't want him to just be a shopkeeper. Especially I'm talking about back in the days when you played the male protagonist.
Yeah.
You realistically want to follow, say, like May and Brendan following their dad's footsteps. Hop tries to follow in his older brother's footsteps. That's what the older male figure is in these games. It's someone for you to live up to. And I think if they were going to do that, as you say, we had it with Norman, who made it gym leader, but you surpass him. Where else you go? He's a champion?
Well, I was going to say that you could either a fresh take on it is either like say he's the champion, or you could actually have your dad be the rival in a really antagonistic kind of way. And I don't see how this would work in Pokemon, but could work in Legends of your dad just being a bit of a douche and being like, "Oh, you're not good enough for this. I'm going to show you how it's done." Like that's what you could, and eventually, he starts to break down his barriers. And in the end, you surpass him, and he's like, you know what? Actually, son, yeah, I'm sorry, I messed up. Would they go there? I don't think so. But that's a way they could bring in that aspect of the dad not being a nobody. He is a somebody. That doesn't mean he has to be somebody positive.
I think the problem you're going to have with including a dad, as I say, if you include a dad, he has to have some kind of work placement, and because this is the Pokemon world, that work placement, for you to have any value to it attached to it, needs to be a Pokemon trainer. Which means that he needs to be someone you can fight, and then suddenly you're adding far too much character to this voiceless protagonist.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, up until this point, your mom has been an ex-Rhyhorn racer or an ex-contest participant. Like, they don't do it anymore. You'll never, ever have to compete with them, so don't worry about it. But they did in the past. And I think maybe if they were going to include a father, it's like, oh, yeah, no, your dad was a champion. That could work. Like, I could even see it where it's a case of he was a champion, and then the champion now was the one who dethroned him, and now he's completely disillusioned with Pokemon. Like, he doesn't think being a trainer is worthwhile. You spend your whole life doing it, and then you end up with nothing and you're home alone, and he doesn't want that for you. I could see that working.
Yeah, that works really well, actually, because then he's a somebody. He's got lessons to teach you, and you've got your character arcs impact on one another, which is quite nice.
The end goal is obviously for you to teach him that actually there is still fun to be had in Pokemon. Yeah,
I like that a lot. That works out quite nicely. I honestly, for me, I would be as happy with just you start off the game and it's like both your parents are there. Like honestly, I'd be fine with that. It's just gotten to the point where it's just a little bit strange that there is yet to be a Pokemon game in 9 generations where your dad is in the house at the start of the game. Every single time, it's just your mum.
Or randomly, you walk into an office building somewhere and it's like, oh, hey, how's it going, son?
Yeah.
Sorry, what?
What?
And like, it's not addressed any deeper than that, because your character knows that's your father and you know that's where they work. But you as a player are just like, wait, is this my dad? Why? It's just in this random office. You know how they used to include, like, the GameFreak building?
Yes.
So your dad just works for GameFreak.
Oh, that's fantastic. You know what we could do? You could go one further. You could have him replace Nurse Joy in one of the Pokemon centers.
Wow.
Just randomly there. Be like, hey, I'll want me healing Pokemon.
Hey, kiddo, how's it going? Oh, your Pokemon need healing. All right, bye.
That's it. Literally just have that. It's fantastic. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Not so evil teams. And this comes on the back of, obviously, Gen 9. They weren't evil. They're just a bunch of school hooligans. Generation 8 was, just employees
Football
of
fans.
Oh, yeah. Well, it depends on which. Yeah. The ones that were advertised were literally just like you say. Yeah, they were.
So this
fans.
is the problem is the not so evil teams from the last few generations haven't been the actual antagonists.
No.
Because they're talking about Team Skull onwards, really, I think.
Who were they in Team Flare and so they were
Team Flare were straight up evil. They were talking about like eugenics and stuff.
Yeah.
You're not pretty enough, time to die. That's pretty evil.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're talking about Team Skull, they're talking about Team Yell and Team Star. Really.
Yeah. Yeah.
But again, none of those were the real evil teams. It was the Aether Foundation. It was Macrocosmos. It was... We didn't really have an evil team. It was the professor.
No.
It was Arvin's parent.
Professor. That was it. Yeah. That's... So, are we due an evil team? Is that something that Pokemon is seems to have moved away from?
I think we don't need the fake outs anymore.
Yeah.
Which, I think we could drop the fake outs now. I think we can just let somebody be like, no, I'm the villain of this story. I'm not hiding. I'm right here. And there's nothing you can do about it. I want that threat. I want somebody who stands above you. And quite frankly, I'd love... it's really hard to implement an evil team, especially because you want to meet the team leader over and over again, but you also need to beat them if you're going to do that, and then that takes away from their threat level. I think Gen 5 got around it a little bit because you never fight Getsis until the very end.
Yeah,
you're fighting N, who is his surrogate. Yeah, it's a tricky one. Yes, I think we need to get rid of the not so evil team, the stand-in, the fake out. I think we're done with that. We've had it too many times now, and we all see it coming. Yeah, I'd actually like to see somebody truly, unashamedly evil.
Yeah, because we've never had that. We've never had of the. You know what, Lysander maybe is probably the one where when you think about what he's actually trying to accomplish, it's like yeah, you are like out and out evil. You might dress it up with all these fancy words to kind of make it out like you're doing it for the greater good or whatever, but you're out and out evil. But Giovanni, who is I'd imagine most people's like favorite or up there in the top 3 maybe of evil leaders, he's just in it for the money at the end of the money and control. Maybe we do want to see someone who, like say, is pure out and out evil, and what they're doing isn't something that can be misconstrued, or if you look at it from a certain angle, he's right. Maybe it is an evil team that is, oh no, we need to stop this guy because they are pure evil, and if we let them get the legendaries, and maybe that's how you could actually, the problem with a lot of the Pokemon games is the lack of urgency. Is that lack of urgency and lack of agency. It's like you're getting dragged along for a ride. You can do it at your own pace. I guess I would love to see a not so evil, an evil team where actually there is a reason why you need to hightail it through the game, and you are very clearly at the start or very early on given a, no, to beat them you need to do this. Like, it's an open world game at this point. Crack on with it. Like, you don't need to wait around. You can just do it. Just go for it. And seeing how that potentially plays into if they are going along the lines of introducing the legendary early, like Miraidon and Koraidon, maybe that's what it is, that, the start of the game, you're tasked with not defeating them, but stopping them, slowing them down. You get, the ride Pokemon, which is the next legendary Pokemon, for example. And then, there's then a reason why the grunts keep chasing you down, because you've managed to beat them so early on. You've got what you need, and you're just trying to, okay, what am I going to do in order to keep on top of this situation? Well, I'm going to do the gym challenge to build up a team to make sure I'm strong enough for when they that now come back to get me. And that's how maybe you tie in, an evil team that still has, your character has agency and urgency, because you've got a reason to do the gym challenge. It's not just because the game tells you you've got to do it.
It's very difficult for GameFreak seemingly to do an evil team who don't just want to end the world.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things I always try and express, it was brought up to me when I was doing writing in university. It was like, hey, if your villain wants to end the world, your audience has no scope for that. They can maybe consider their town being burned down.
Mm.
But a villain who wants to blow up a town is never going to hit as hard as a villain who wants to kill your mum.
Yeah.
You need to make it personal. And ending the world, I can't fathom 8 billion people. I can't do it. My brain cannot comprehend those kind of numbers. So it just becomes a hand wave. Yeah, no, you're evil because you want to destroy the world. Sure. And we've had that since Gen 3, really. Archie and Maxie want to at least destroy the region. Cyrus wanted to destroy the world and create his own. What was Gen 5? Well, Getsis was really clever, actually. Getsis just wanted to gain power in the most political way possible. Brilliant. But he was also a groomer. So awful human being. Gen 6, as I say, is eugenics. Plus he wanted to fire the ultimate weapon and destroy the world. Gen 7, the Aether Foundation, wanted to bring Ultra Beasts here, which would destroy the world. Gen 8, Macrocosmos, he wanted to unleash the darkest day again and destroy the world. Gen 9, again, we didn't really have an actual villainous team, but I guess if Paradox Pokemon got out, they would have destroyed the world as we know it. So, I think the strongest villain we've had to date is Volo. Because Volo is outright evil. And he's manipulative, and he strings you along the whole game. But he doesn't want to destroy the world. He wants to kill God. Which is it's not necessarily something I agree with. But fair play. You gotta have hopes, I guess.
You set your sights high. Why not?
Shoot for the moon, son. Go ahead. And I love it. And I love that idea of no, I'm not here to destroy the world. I just want to kill God because I should be able to. Because he should respect me. It's the ultimate ego, and I love him for that.
I agree. I tell you what then, maybe I had an idea of, I don't know where this idea came from. The legendaries are always, you get them at the end of the game, and maybe we can tie this in with your family has the legendary in their possession already. It's handed down generation to generation. And maybe this is how you bring in your dad as well, that your dad is attacked at the start, protecting that Pokemon. By the evil team comes in, they want that Pokemon. Your dad is then, rendered out of the picture. He's not a nobody. He actually, defended that Pokemon and got gravely injured. And now it falls onto you to track down that Pokemon because it's your family legacy. There's a potential there that you could merge some of these together.
Yes, but again, you're giving too much character to the protagonist.
True.
Which I'd love to see, because I think you can have a mute protagonist and still have them be somebody. I mean, you just look at Link. Yeah. Link is, I was born the hero of legend, and the whole world revolves around me, and I've got this destiny to fight this big evil guy. But I don't say anything, and you can still... But I think there's a difference between Link, who is very distinctly Link, and the Pokemon protagonist. I mean, we talk about Red as if he's a character, but that's more
strange
what we've put on them
yeah.
over the years. Well, like, we've seen him in other games.
Yeah.
We've seen Red and Gold. We've seen him in the Black and White tournament and stuff like that. We haven't really, or we saw him in Sun and Moon as well. We haven't seen any of the other characters like that outside of something like Masters EX.
Yeah. Which isn't canon, I'm pretty sure. So
no, I think their statement is that the story's not canon, but the characterization is.
Yes. Which, yeah.
I love. I think it's great. I think it's a fantastic thing that they've done there.
Yeah. Let's move on to the next one. Past regions being off limits outside of remakes. So this is Kanto Johto they're referring to here. Their example, right? Of you completed one region, off you go to the second region. I'm just going to be completely honest here. While I would love to see that, I'd rather them just put all that effort into the one region. Rather than split it across two. If Pokemon pulled out amazing quality every single generation, yes, I would be like, yeah, I want to see that again. But as a realist, there is no way they do this without either just lowering the quality and the standards even lower, or they go back to 2D sprite. That's the only way we get this. Unfortunately, I'm happy with them not breaking this one.
And it was great in Gold and Silver, and I still think Gold and Silver are fantastic games. And Johto is one of my favorite regions. I think most of that's nostalgia, but I love the feel of it. I do think it suffers slightly because Kanto's attached to it. The level curve is a real issue and things like that. I think focus on one. And realistically, why do you want to go back to another region? Like as part of a game, why do you just want to go fight the same gym leaders you've already fought before?
Like
if we're gonna go back to an old region, I want it either in a Legends game or a sequel game. I don't even. I'm kind of done with remakes. Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire was a good one because it introduced more into it and gave us a little bit more from the game. But I think I'm done now. I think Legends opened my eyes to what could be done with revisiting regions. I want to see it in a different era. I want to see Black and White 3. I want to see Johto Legends.
I'm completely on board with you there. Like this, like you say, going back to Kanto was nostalgia, and while I did enjoy, look at the develop, like look at what has changed over that time. When you actually look back on it, not a lot has really changed. A couple of the gym leaders have shifted or aged up. The power plant has changed slightly. There's a radio tower now in place of Lavender Tower,
which is gross, by the way. I hate that.
Which is absolutely disgusting when you think about it. There's Cinnabar Island is burnt down, and the Viridian gym is being built. There isn't actually that much in terms of this is what's happened. Whereas you're right, Black and White 2, while I've only played it once and I can't remember much of it, it was a true sequel. It was time has developed. Look at how this has impacted on the world and the characters and stuff like that. And I would much rather, like you, instead of seeing, remakes or a second area, I would like them to, we've got Kalos, we've got Alola. Let's completely flip that on its head. Let's do a sequel, or let's do something so far in the past or so far in the future that, the links are there, but it's not a sequel. It's not a prequel. It's just set on the same area, because you don't need to go to a new region every time there's a new story. You can just adapt what you've already got in a sequel or prequel.
Because here's the thing. They could quite easily have made Johto its own region and given it its own post-game and just fleshed it out more, and then made Fire Red, Leaf Green, Red and Green 2. and used all the stuff that they improved in Kanto plus more in those remake games.
Well, you know what? I'm actually okay with Fire Red and Leaf Green being their own thing. Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee. Now they should have been sequels.
Yeah, they don't even follow the same story.
Wow.
Well, they don't, because Red and Blue are in it, but they're not the main protagonists.
No.
And Trace becomes the champion, and it's like a very alternate universe. So it's like, if you're gonna go that far, just go all the way.
Yeah, well, that was the annoying thing. It's like honestly, Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee should have been 5-10 years in the future, rather than what we got, which is it's kind of Pokemon Yellow, kind of not. It's just like this halfway house that doesn't work. And that would have actually probably boosted sales of that game as well, ridiculously. Yeah. Instead of calling it Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, call it, Pokemon Let's Go Fire 2 or something like that's that kind of naming convention where straight away people go, oh, this is a sequel? Oh yeah, I'm in. That would have actually taken me from, borrowing the Switch and borrowing that game and playing it with my daughter to, okay, let's buy this, to I kind of need a Switch day one rather than year 2 or 3. I think I got my Switch.
I mean, I understand why they didn't do that, because Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee were basically testing grounds for them, and they specifically chose a game that they didn't have to put that much effort into. But how cool would it have been to be like, oh, you can't go into the tall grass, you gotta go see Professor Oak to pick up your starter. Walk in, it's blue.
Oh my god. Yes.
It's so good. Yes. And and again, the brains of every Pokemon fan in the world just exploded.
Yeah.
It's that simple.
Yeah.
It really is.
Oh,
give them fan service. Do it right.
Yes.
Do it right.
That would have been, there we go. I don't think we can discuss that one anymore. I think you've absolutely nailed that there. Fantastic. The next one is Dragon type pseudo legendaries. I've got a list up here of the 9 gens that we've had so far. Only 2 of them don't have Dragon types. That is Gen 2 with
Metagross and
Tyranitar.
Tyranitar.
Yeah. That is it.
And Metagross doesn't even really count because we got Salamence in that same generation.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh no. Right, okay, so there's only one gen. Yeah, I'm all on board with this. Yeah, Dragon types have had their day. I enjoy a good Dragon type. I want to move away from it now. I do want to see other legend. This isn't just pseudo. I want to see pseudo legendaries and legendaries that aren't Dragon. Move away from that. I want to see some of the typings that have been overlooked, like Bug, Ice, Rock. They're the ones I want to see, given the really powerful Pokemon with really good base stats and really good abilities that help to shore up some of the weaknesses that they typically have. That's what I want to see.
Yeah, I mean, you just brought up Bug, and I was like, oh, what's the strongest Bug type? Volcarona. Volcarona is up there. That should have been a pseudo legendary.
Agreed. Yeah.
It's got all the story behind it. Everything else, it should have been a pseudo legendary.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I guess Pheromosa and Buzzwole, but they're Ultra Beasts. They were different. Cleavor's got a little bit of love in its story, but I wouldn't call it a pseudo legendary by any stretch of the imagination. Yeah, I'd love to see a Bug type pseudo. I think, as you say, it's a typing that needs a lot of love, whereas dragons, we know dragons are strong. Yeah, and dragons almost feel stronger because there's so many pseudos within the type.
Well, that's it. Dragon is skewed because, say, we have so many pseudos and so many legendaries that are dragon typings that have better base stats than normal Pokemon. So of course they're going to skew that stat of dragon are the strongest. So let's move away from that. Let's get some more pseudos and legendaries.
And not to Fairy, because Fairy's too strong as it is already.
Agreed. Yeah. I think there needs to be a couple of others that maybe just to break up the meta a little bit, to be quite honest with you, and just to mix it up, because I'm a little bit tired of I'm a little bit tired of Yeah, like you'll fire. You choose a fire type, you choose a grass type, you choose a water type. You might then get a flying, maybe an electric, and then late game you get a dragon. Like I don't want that anymore. I want, I really want to run a game where I'm not constrained to those Pokemon, those traditional Pokemon typings. I want a game that rewards you for going, oh, you want, bug, rock, ground, flying, electric, and ghost on your team. Go for it. Whereas typically you need like the core elemental typings. Want to move away from that. And I think one of the ways you do that is with pseudos that break that standard.
Yeah. So I'm just looking at the same list you are of all the pseudo legendaries. I think Baxcalibur is really weak. I think design wise it's not great.
It's really annoying. Baxcalibur is because the first design I hate, the second one I'm like, oh, this has got potential, and then you see its final form, I'm like,
hi guys,
yeah, like,
could I just show you a town, please? Oh, go on. Like, I'll do a backflip.
Oh no, I'm stuck in the ground. I can't get it out. Like, honestly, Baxcalibur, that like, it almost feels like the second form should have been the first form, the third form should have been the second form, and it should have had a really powerful third form that just feels and looks powerful. And what we got is, oh, okay, it's another Dragon and Ice, which we've had before with Kyurem. Like, if you're gonna give us pseudos, maybe give us pseudos of typings that we haven't had before. I'm pretty sure. I'm trying to think of one off the top of my head. Ice and Fire. Ice Fire. Have we had an Ice Fire one? I don't think we have off the top of my head. I can't remember. Like, mix it up. Give us because the problem is, and I looked this up, that a lot of the typings, the combination typings that we haven't had yet, are typically because they have so many weaknesses. So how do you get around those weaknesses? Well, it's a pseudo, so it has higher base stat totals, and you give it an ability that helps it to minimize some of those weaknesses. And that's how you do it. That's what I'd like. Yeah, Gen 10 agreed. Like, this one needs to change. The last one from the Game Rant article: missing national decks. Now, we've kind of touched on this in the past, since Sword and Shield was the first one to drop the national decks, right? Yep. And we haven't seen it since. I'm of the mindset, and I've said this before on the podcast, I'm actually okay with that if dropping it leads to other benefits in the game. And we go back to the Sword and Shield debacle where Brexit happened, and we're not bringing it. Yeah, Dexy.
I mean, Brexit did happen, but let's not talk about that. That's a whole different podcast.
Let's not get into that. So Dexy happened, and obviously we're told in interviews that we're cutting back on the number of Pokemon because it will allow us to focus more on those Pokemon. I think that was the right thing to do. Did that happen? I don't think so. But
not in that game.
Not in that game, but I maintain that was the right thing to do, of stripping back the number of Pokemon you can get in each generation, because it also stops you from doing what everyone always does of, oh, I've used that Pokemon in every generation, I'm going to use it in this team. It's one of the reasons I enjoy Black and White so much, is it kind of forced you, it did force you to go, oh, the previous 400 odd Pokemon? Yeah, no, you can't use them till post-game. You've got to build a new team. You've got to have all these new Pokemon and new experiences. Saying all that, though, Generation 10 is, it's a big one.
The culmination of everything that's come before it.
Kind of feels like it's got to have the national decks.
Yeah.
If this was any other Pokemon game, I'd be okay with them dropping the national decks. I don't need that. That's what Pokemon Home's there for now. Pokemon Home is there if you want that national dex. Granted, it does limit you of being able to bring in maybe some of the Pokemon. I'm still gutted that I can't bring Meganium into some of the later games. It's fine. It allows me to use other Pokemon. But Gen 10, I need that national dex. How amazing would that be if, oh, welcome to the new region. Here's your dex. it's unlocked from the start. Oh yeah, there's over 1,000 Pokemon. Good luck, have fun. And then suddenly, you've got hopefully another reason to continue playing a Pokemon game for a long time.
Yeah, I think it's a difficult one to argue. I think as much in the same way as you, I think there's something to be said for unlocking the national dex post game, which is what they used to do anyway. It's like, you've completed the normal dex, here's the national dex, or whatever the case may be. Or you've completed the Pokemon League, here's the national dex. I think that allows you to encourage people to play with the Pokemon in the main region. However, I think with the games moving more towards a case of, we'll play it your way, to then go, but we're restricting you in what Pokemon you can use. No, if I'm going to play it my way, let me play it my way. And the other thing is I think it's just a marketing tool now. I think it's very much just the case of like, no, we'll get people to buy DLC.
Yeah.
And I understand there's the statement of, as soon as the DLCs come out, any Pokemon that are in them are available to bring in through home, whether you have the DLC or not, which is great, fantastic. But I think the point is they can bring those Pokemon in anytime, and they choose not to until the DLC comes out.
Yeah.
We all know that the argument they made of, we're trying to make the textures better, we're trying to make higher quality models. It was a garbage argument then. Sure, the textures look better now, but come on, you're not going to update these textures for the next generation. I love these games, but they're not going to do it.
No.
So,
nope.
Yeah, bring the national dex back. I think it's silly not to. Agreed. I think you could even, and the other argument they made was for competitive being more balanced. Which, again, doesn't make sense when you're bringing back old Pokemon, like all the legendaries are suddenly back. And it's like, well, okay, great. Plus the thing that, like, at least in the early seasons, they should do regional decks only. So there's that. Plus, I think you could quite comfortably say, okay, well, we've got the national deck, so you can play the games with any Pokemon you want, but we've also got a competitive dex. Which, if they start doing what we've been begging them to do forever, which is, you want to play competitive? Here, generate your team. Could you just decide what Pokemon you can generate?
Yeah.
You just go, this is the competitive list. We don't allow certain Pokemon because we don't think they work. And then you can create it in lore of like, the DNA of that Pokemon's a little bit weird and we haven't quite nailed it down yet. And then people can play with the game with whatever Pokemon they want, but you've still got competitive is fair, and you can still encourage people to play through the games early on with the regional. And I think having no national decks is just it's a hard argument to swing.
Yeah, agreed. So that's all of the, what Game Rant seems to think. But we said we would bring one each. Now earlier on I said I had two. I've actually got three. Yeah. So I'll let you go first because then I can.
No, because you can do one and then I'll do. Oh no, because I see what you're saying.
Yes.
Mine is the big one that has always been my issue with Pokemon games: lack of agency.
Yeah. Okay.
Let me have dialogue trees.
Yep.
Or at least let my choices make a difference. I want to be able to. I want to join the evil team. I want to tell my rival to go do one. I want to have choices, and I want to have choices that matter and change where the game goes.
Yeah, agreed. I'm in the mindset that if the dialogue options aren't going to make a difference, just don't put them in there. Like, and I know why they do that, because you've got silent protagonists, so they have to have that way to kind of make your character acknowledge things that are happening. But
they don't, because they never used to. Because I've been working on a video about that Nugget Bridge encounter you have, where the guy goes, do you want to join Team Rocket? And he responds to you as if you say no, but they never give you the option to say no, because that's the choice they want you to make.
Yeah.
So you just do that. And they've done it before. What's your name? Oh, your name's so-and-so. Okay. They don't make you click a box that says, my name's this.
Yeah.
If I'm not going to have options, don't give me options.
Yeah, it's one of those weird things where, like, sometimes I understand the decisions GameFreak make, but then they make other decisions that go against. Like, they want you to have this protagonist that is silent because then you can project onto them, but then nothing you say or do makes a difference to the story, so it's not your story anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's the decisions that they make sometimes are weird, but I
Do you know
agree
what the
with
worst
you.
thing is?
Go on.
I think the dialogue options you have are there simply because the dialogue gets too long.
Oh, just to break it up.
Literally just to break it up, because they realize like, oh, they've not had to do anything for a little while. Let's give them a false decision before we continue this stream of dialogue at them.
Yeah.
I mean, you think about your journey through Kitakami. Those few choices you made, those few times where you told Kieran yes or yes please, was kind of the only thing that broke up the monotony of people talking at you.
Yeah, there was a lot of talking in that DLC, wasn't there? I'm just thinking back now of and then every now and again you would get a prompt. That's a good point, actually. We're getting good at figuring out GameFreak's, shtick, aren't we?
Well, we've been doing this for over a year now, so we hope so.
I hope so, yeah. So my 3 that I've got, gym typings. Gym typings are done. Like I'm
done. Agreed.
I'm sick and tired of he is the grass type, he is the water type. And you know what? Generation 9 that the comment that you made about they got the terrestrialization wrong, and they should have. And instead of he is, I'm in the electric gym and he is. I'm trying to think what she uses. She uses the ghost Pokemon.
Oh, she uses a Miss Magius, doesn't she?
That's it. Yeah, and terrestrializes
because it's got levitate.
Yes. So
which is probably the strongest example they have.
Yeah, but the rest of
that's
them
the best use of it, but the rest of it's garbage.
Yeah, and
Teddy Ursa that becomes bug type because it gets access to Fury swipes.
Oh yeah, sure. Like I've read this before. This isn't me coming up with this, but it's a really good idea of you base them around a theme. So it wouldn't be a grass type gym leader anymore. It would be a sunny day team. So, the first Pokemon comes in, it's maybe a grass type, sets up Sunny Day. They could then cycle in a fire type because it gets the boost. You could then cycle in another grass Pokemon that then has access to Solar Beam. Other Pokemon that allow you to heal because healing does, certain healing moves do more recovery. Like, you could have that. You could then also do other things. You could have something built around, Trick Room of, okay, all the gym leaders Pokemon are really slow. But the moment they then set up that Trick Room, oh, okay, right, they're now outspeeding me every single time. There's a lot more fun you could have. And I think that is a nice halfway house between that and competitive, because it allows you to, because what we've currently got with the gyms is, we're just going to teach you about typings, which chances are you already know about. So let's start bringing in some of those competitive elements. And then people will go, okay, I can still over-level for this gym if I need to, because I don't quite understand the gimmick or the mechanic. But then for those that might enjoy those kind of battles, then go, okay, I think I can enjoy competitive because this is like a step in that direction. So I would like to see that. The next one I would love to see us.
Can I respond to that?
Sorry, yeah, sorry.
Because you said you want to base it around theming like a sunny day, so it's a competitive theme. Whereas I think you play it more up as character. So these are the Pokemon that character would have. So off the top of my head, we were talking about Katie, the baker in Scarlet Violet, who has the Teddy Ursa, which makes no freaking sense.
And she doesn't have a Fido. Like,
she doesn't have a Fido.
Like,
or a Slurpuff, or a fire type Pokemon who heats up her oven and keeps it at the right temperature. It lays into that thing again of like, let me feel like Pokemon are a part of this world. Let me feel like they have job roles and people interact with them on a much deeper level. Gym leaders are the way to do that. I mean, random one I think of, Crash Awake from Gen 4. is a wrestler.
Yeah.
But he's got all these water type Pokemon. And it's like, those two things don't necessarily go together. Like, where's this guy's Machoke? He can still have his Floatzel because he just really likes Floatzel, but where's his Machoke? Where's his, I'm trying to think of a Pokemon that would be great for wrestling. Holucha. A Pokemon that's not a fighting type that could be to do with wrestling. Lopunny. He has a Lopunny because it's a cheerleader.
Yeah.
Or the electric type Oricorio. Something like that. You can create these themes around character, and I think it does more to express who these people are.
Yeah.
More so than I like fire.
Which is what we've currently got, which is ridiculous that we've ended up here. The next one, very similar to gym typings, because we took a break. We took a slight break from gym typings when we went to Alola. Slight break. Elite Four, again, took a break from that in Generation 8, where we had the knockout competition at the end. The league, yeah. And again, I'm in the mindset that the end of Gen 8, when I found out there was an Elite Four, I was over the moon. But what we got introduced to was basically, it's pretty much the Elite Four. It wasn't a knockout competition. It should have been, here are your rivals throughout the game, Bede and Hop and all these other characters, Marnie and a few others. And it is just a random number generator of Hop made it through on your game, on your playthrough, but on someone else's playthrough, Hop got knocked out first round. Like, that's how it should have been, and they progressed, and that's
you want the black and white world tournament.
Yeah, I don't want Elite Four. And after seeing, like, one of the things that I used to enjoy about the Elite Four was, what they did to the rooms of the Elite Four members. Like, I still maintain the best Elite Four rooms are Kalos. Like, you go on that spiral, and then, the dragon wings open up, the water swooshes into the air, the fire, like, surrounds you. It's absolutely beautiful. And then we got Generation 9 of, I'm in a box room.
Here's a room.
I'm in a Rubik's Cube, and
you don't even get to change room. They're going to come to you.
No, it's so disappointing. So, yeah, mix up the Elite Four. Like, they made the right choice in Sword and Shield of, let's look at an alternative method, only to then bring it back in Gen 9 for some bizarre reason in a worse way than has been done previously.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
I'd like to see that gone. And my last one, older playable characters. Pokemon isn't for children anymore. It's for everyone. And I don't know how they would implement that, because it's kind of, you're an adult, but you're still going through, like, it's a difficult...
Well, here's the thing. Scarlet and Violet was the perfect one to do that in, because they say that you can join the academy at any age.
Yeah.
They have older students. People can start the Pokemon journey at any time in their life. If you want to play an 8-year-old guy who has gone, or you play someone in their mid-40s who's having a midlife crisis, like, I'm going to be a Pokemon master. All right, you do that, buddy. Crack on. You're right. It'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah. And
you make it one of those things where it's an option. Well, you get to choose what age bracket you're in.
You know what? And this kind of leads into the devil's advocate, actually. That Pokemon Infinite Fusion, that I'm playing through on my channel, by the way, you should go and watch it. It actually asks you at the start, it's like, okay, what's your age? What's your gender? What's your name? And the age only goes up to, I think, 18, which is annoying, but at least they give you that option. It makes no difference. The annoying thing is it makes no difference whatsoever to the gameplay, the character. It makes no difference whatsoever. But that actually, I feel valued here. I feel listened to.
I feel seen.
Yeah, and that's what I want. I want a game of, okay, you design your character, and, the more recent generations would fit perfectly of that of, oh, how old are you? Oh, you're 60. Okay, so create character. Wrinkles? There's a toggle. Lots of wrinkles? No wrinkles because you're actually young. There you go. Done and dusted. And it actually, like, rather than, I'm playing as a child again, like, it doesn't, like, when you tell people that you play Pokemon, like, I don't care. I'm like, yeah, I enjoy Pokemon. I play Pokemon. It doesn't bother me. But you do that, get that, you're playing child's game? Like, not. I get why you think that. So yeah, give me the option to. And you know what? Maybe they don't want to do that, but then implement it in Legends. Legends is what, like, because your character is slightly older in Legends, I think. I don't think there is.
Yeah, I think that. Excuse me. I think it's supposed to be a sequel to Diamond and Pearl. So that's like, Dawn and Lucas have grown up and then been sent back in time. I'm pretty sure that's the concept that we kind of landed on as a community. So, yeah, I think Black and White have one of the strongest story, and because you're an older character.
Yeah.
I think having your characters as slightly older allows them to have these more mature themes that we can all get on board with, rather than it being a 10-year-old taking down the mafia.
Yeah, and like if you have those, mature themes, and I get there's an argument that, maybe they are, by doing that, their younger children might not appreciate it or understand it, but like, that's the same with any media. Like, you whack on a movie that has adult, the occasional adult joke. The kids don't get it, but then as they get older, they then appreciate it more. And it'd be the same with Pokemon of, now that I'm playing this 10 years older than, when I first played it, I appreciate it a lot more because I now understand the dynamics and what themes the game is trying to touch on.
Yeah.
There you go.
And as I say, I don't think you being a young character necessarily means they have to stray away from those mature themes either. I think the juxtaposition's a little bit odder.
Yeah.
But so is a 60-year-old man walking into his first gym fight. I think you can you can just like lay into the ridiculous nature of it.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that works. That's our list, folks. 11 in total. Wait, did you say yours? Yeah, you did, didn't you? What was it?
Yeah. Lack of agency.
That was it. No, yeah, agreed. There you go. There's our 11. What about you? What do you think? Let us know. In the description down below, there's multiple ways you can get in touch with us. I want to know what other people are thinking. Like, what is it that they want to see change in Generation 10? Because if they're ever going to do it, Gen 10 feels like the one where, go big or go home. Let's move on to Devil's Advocate. And this prompt comes courtesy of Tony on YouTube. So they've said, is there an argument to be made that the Pokemon Company is limited from making more new and interesting content with their main games, leaving them tasting very vanilla because ROM hacks and fan games are beating them to it creatively by using existing games? So we turned it into a bit of a prompt for our Devil's Advocate section of Pokemon ROM hacks are taking all the good ideas. So Conor, you are arguing that ROM hacks are taking all the good ideas, correct?
No,
and I'm arguing that they aren't taking all. Now, would you like me to start this week?
Yeah, go on then.
Okay, so ROM hacks aren't taking all the good ideas. They are just recycling things that Pokemon are already doing. We talk about Radical Red. Radical Red's got all these new features. It's got dens. It's got the ability to check your IVs and EVs, and it's got it's got all these Pokemon from the later generations. Congratulations, you have just described some of the features from Generation 8 and 9, which were introduced by GameFreak. And I'm sure there are other ideas out there, other games that people might talk about and go, no, this is brand new. This is for this game. But ultimately, those ideas come or originate from GameFreak.
Okay, so I think Radical Red's an odd one specifically because it's kind of what we've said we'd kind of want out of Gen 10. It's a culmination of everything that's come before it, which Game Freak kind of don't like to do. Trying not to shoot myself in the foot here, but we all know that they add new stuff in and take old stuff away. But they're always trying to innovate. They're always trying to make each generation something different than what came before it, whether it be new mechanics or new battle styles, whatever the case may be. They're always trying to innovate on what came before. Now, are there ROM hacks that are maybe taking ideas that Game Freak now can't implement? So, for instance, Infinite Fusions. Infinite Fusions is something that the community have been asking for years. We want to fuse our Pokemon. And I understand why, and clearly given the response that people have had to that game, there's a desire for it. But Infinite Fusions can only exist because it's a fan game. Because it can have fan-created designs of all these different Pokemon, and people will just accept the really janky ones that are just computer generated or AI generated that are just like mashed them together. Whereas if Game Freak released something like that, and they released any of those mashed designs that look garbage, people would kick off. And they can't outsource the same way because you can't ask people to do something for free for a game that you're going to sell for millions and millions. That's
unless
not
you're
okay.
Niantic.
Well, how do you mean?
Niantic, basically people.
Oh, you're
do
talking
the
about the roots.
Yeah, sorry, roots, gyms, Pokestops, all that kind of
So,
stuff. But that's
ish,
it.
but I
Mobile's
don't think
Mobile's
that's
different.
I don't think that's quite the same as creating designs. I think somebody going, "Hey, this is a good route to walk," is not the same as going, "Oh, here's a Pokemon design we lifted from the internet." That's not okay to do. So there are certain things that you can do as ROM hacks because they live in this kind of gray area that Game Freak just aren't capable of doing. Now, I also think that Game Freak, I've said it before, they do look at these games. They are happy enough to go, "Oh, that's a quite a good idea, actually. The link cable to evolve traded Pokemon? Yeah, go on then. We'll have that."
Yeah, we'll have that.
You know, so I don't think necessarily that there's nothing to be gained. Like, it's happened in a ROM hack and therefore can never happen in a Game Freak game. But I think there's a lot that can only ever exist within the realm of ROM hacks. So the other one to look at as well is, these more mature games, like Uranium. Uranium was all about a nuclear meltdown and these Pokemon all being irradiated and mutated. You can't sell that as a PG game. You just can't. So it's not a case of like, "Oh, well, we can't do that idea now." It's just never, ever something we were ever going to get in a Pokemon game anyway. Much in the same way as these more mature ones where it's like, "Oh, I'm going to go out and I'm going to kill you and I'm going to kidnap your parents and say all these slurs." Like, we just don't need that in Pokemon.
Which, it's funny that you mentioned those couple of things because the prompt says Pokemon ROM hacks are taking all the good ideas, but what you've just described to me aren't good ideas. Like this is why like they're able to have their own little gray area safe space, because a lot of the things aren't actually that good. They are just, okay, let's take what is currently out there with Pokemon and adapt it and tweak it. Now, if I
forgot
could
what I was supposed to be arguing. Damn it!
You're arguing that I'm arguing that ROM hacks aren't taking all the good ideas. You're arguing that ROM hacks are taking all the good ideas.
I'd say. Oh yeah.
But okay, so I'm gonna carry on with my.
Sorry. They're all great ideas, but Pokemon would never touch them anyway.
Oh right, okay, fair enough.
So they are stealing all these really good ideas, but Game Freak weren't going to touch them. So they're welcome to. There you go. That
Sure.
was my argument there.
Sure, there we go. But like ROM hacks, like unfortunately, I've played a couple of ROM hacks, and a lot of the time they are just either implementing quality of life improvements, which again are great things to have in a game, but it's not necessarily a good idea. Pokemon Infinite Fusion is probably one of the few where actually like someone took an idea and ran with it, and a really good idea. I'm not going to argue that Infinite Fusion is a good game because it's up there. It's up there, okay? It's a great game. Play it if you haven't already. But for every one Infinite Fusion, there are dozens of boring, run-of-the-mill Pokemon fan-made games that don't innovate, that don't do anything new or interesting, that don't bring new good ideas. Now, we could be having a very different conversation if, a lot of these ROM hacks were implementing things from other games outside of Pokemon. And then, okay, Pokemon is kind of, we'll pinch a little bit of that, but we don't. Unfortunately, a lot of the ROM hacks just implement quality of life improvements, or, we're going to do our own version of Pokemon designs, which never look good, which never work, because they're all like, say, uranium. Oh, it's a Charmander that's been exposed to, liquid ooze, and it just always looks boring and dull, and just they try to do Pokemon, but do it badly, so it doesn't feel like Pokemon anymore.
So, one of the things that ROM hacks do that maybe GameFreak would maybe like to lift at some point, but kind of can't. And it's difficult to argue because I don't think it's creative point of view. I think the question's weirdly worded that it's like, oh, well, ROM hacks did it, and therefore GameFreak feel like if they did it, they'd be stealing from ROM hacks. And there's a whole thing about, what do they call it? Imposter syndrome?
Yeah.
Which I don't think anyone at GameFreak has, because as far as they're concerned, well, it's our game.
Yeah.
Anything you do is derivative of us, not the other way around.
You want to be derivative? We'll be derivative.
So, that being said, though, I think something that ROM hacks offer that GameFreak can't necessarily is the difficulty. Is these these hardcore difficulty Kaizo games and things like that. The ones that are just unfairly hard.
Yeah.
And I don't think GameFreak could do that because it doesn't appeal to the widest possible audience, which they have to do. Whereas ROM hacks, again, because they're released for free, because it's a labor of love more than anything else, they can go, well, my audience for this is very, very niche, but that's fine because that niche audience will love it. GameFreak can't do that. So there are elements that they're like, yeah, it'd be fun. I want to, but I can't because of the situation I'm in. The only other one I can think of is like, did you ever play Crystal Clear?
No, it rings about.
It's the open world Pokemon Crystal game where you can go anywhere
right.
from the very start. You can start in any town. You can change your hair color, your character, your sprites, whatever the case may be. And you can fight the gyms in any order. And each gym leader has different teams depending on when you fight them. And you can go back and you can challenge them at any level up to what gym badge you have as well. That's a really cool idea. See, this is such a hard argument to make, and I really wish I didn't land on this side of it because, again, I think the premise is wrong. Mm-hmm. I think it's not necessarily that GameFreak couldn't do it because the idea has already been done. I think they're just not in a position to make those kind of choices.
Yes. I think like the two that you've just mentioned, so the difficulty and Pokemon Crystal Clear and being able to do that in any order you want, I think, yeah, they are examples of good ideas that probably some fans are clamoring
for. Yeah.
And they are good ideas. But Pokemon, there's nothing stopping GameFreak going, okay, you did that. Okay, but we're going to do it as well. Like, it's fine. We want to implement difficulty. And they have done that in Black and White. Black and White 2? Black and White. Mm-hmm. One of Gen 5. I can't remember which one introduced difficulty. And, open world and starting anywhere. You've kind of got that with Gen 9. Yes, you don't get to start in any town, but
it doesn't really work in Crystal Clear either because the wild Pokemon don't scale.
Yeah.
Which means if you start at the end of the game, then you just have a really hard time leaving town. Which is fine. It's a choice you make. You can play the game however you want. But again, it's not a great experience for a new person. And that's the other thing. ROM hacks are never, ever for the first time player.
No,
nobody is picking up a ROM hack and going, this is my first ever Pokemon game. That's
Radical
not happening.
My first game.
You know what I mean? Nobody is doing that. And the people creating these games know that for a fact. Whereas every designer at GameFreak has to take into consideration that this Pokemon game might be somebody's first.
Yeah, agreed. I think, honestly, that there are, just to kind of break this down now, I think, yes, there are some good ideas in ROM hacks. I think someone could literally craft the perfect ROM hack with some top tier AAA gaming ideas, GameFreak, I think, would quite happily go, that's actually a good idea. Let's implement that. Let's change it. They would put their variation on it. But I think GameFreak are very much just, oh yeah, we're aware of what they're doing over there, but that's not going to impact on what we're doing over here. We've set out our plan for the next generation. This is what we are going to do. And if they're doing it over there, leave them to it. Because it's only a small set of people that are going to ever go over there. The majority of people are going to be over here playing our games. And, you know, let's say Generation 10 implements, you know, fusion mechanics. Okay. Infinite Fusion is its own thing. Over here, I can guarantee you within a week, all the search on YouTube would be about the new version, Game Freak's version of fusions rather than what is over there. Because Infinite Fusion, while I love it, it's for a small community of, you know, probably tens of thousands. The Pokemon mainline games are there for millions.
Okay, I just thought of something. So again, my main argument is not that I don't think ROM hacks and Pokemon games are mutually exclusive. I think anything that occurs in a ROM hack could hypothetically appear in a Pokemon game. I don't think they've gone, oh, well, it's appeared there, we can't do it now. They can do whatever they want. You did. In fact, we'll just shut your game down if we want to. Like, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
I think where the struggle lies is these games that design new Pokemon.
Yeah.
I think these games that introduce new typings and these games that design new Pokemon. Because Game Freak can never, ever be seen as stealing fan-made creations. And I think this is, again, why Fusions is now far less likely to ever be seen in a real-life game. And a lot of the, like, there's so many good artists out there on Twitter, on Instagram, and things like that who design fantastic looking Pokemon. All these new Paradox forms I've been seeing recently. You've got the Bond forms, which is like Ash Greninja, but for lots of different trainers and things like that. People go above and beyond with these things. And Game Freak designers are not allowed to look at them. Because at any point, if anything is even remotely similar, there's an argument to be made of, you stole my idea. And that's just not something they can, it's not something they can be seen as doing.
Yeah. I agree with you there. And like, funnily enough, a good example of that is when I played Pokemon Prism. There's Pokemon Prism is 99.9% of the same Pokemon that you've already seen, but it introduced 4 new legendary Pokemon that designed, and one of them I think is a very good fit for Pokemon. But that game introduces the sound typing and the gas typing, which again I think the sound typing really does work actually in that game. And I know we've discussed this before. Oh, sound wouldn't work in that game. They implement it well. But one of the moves they implement is a hazard where basically any opponents, once you've set it up, any opponents switching in are automatically burnt. Like, which is fantastic, broken, busted. Could we see that being implemented in a future Pokemon game? Yes, we could. Would it be as a result of seeing it and thinking, oh, that's really good, we're going to steal it? No. If they're going to implement that, it'll be off their own backs because someone's thought of it, rather than, oh, they did it, let's steal that. They're just not the type of company to...
Yes, but I don't think, for instance, we'll ever see the sound typing. And I think we'll never see the sound typing because there's so much already out there.
Yeah.
People already have their own preconceptions as to what the sound typing is. They've already played these games where it interacts with the type chart that already exists. So, although theoretically they could go, oh no, here's the real sound typing, here's how it really works, they would know there would be a portion of their audience who go, well, that's not my sound typing. Why? You know, there's a reason why Luxray isn't a electric dark Pokemon just because fans want it to be. You know, there's plenty of ROM hacks that have made it an electric dark Pokemon. There's plenty of ROM hacks that have made a Flygon a Bug Dragon. We may see a regional variant that gets those, but we're never going to see the Pokemon we already have updated like we do in these ROM hacks, because they're like, well, again, people already have their ideas of those. And I think that is one of those where it's like, we don't want to tread on ground that's already been stepped, because it just gets messy. So anything we want to introduce better be our own thing, which is why nobody saw fairies coming.
Yes,
you know, we thought
that's a good point.
Anybody who thought we were going to get a new typing thought it was going to be sound. We thought Sylveon was going to be flying, or even possibly the light type. There was an argument I remember for the light type at one point, but again, you introduce a light type, people already have a preconception as to what that's going to be. You introduce fairy, everybody's like, well, this could be anything.
Yeah.
So I think that's probably one place where, ROM hacks do get to take all the good ideas.
I can understand that. Yeah. And if they implement it and run with it well, and then other ROM hacks then go, oh, they did that. We want to, we'll copy that as well. And then it becomes almost that, okay, GameFreak is nothing stopping them from implementing it, but they'll do it in their own way.
Mm-hmm.
Which
some fans will see as the wrong way.
Yes.
So it's better just to avoid the whole situation.
Yeah, definitely. That one got a bit sidetracked, but I think we came down on the argument of the takings. ROM hacks do implement good ideas, but that doesn't limit GameFreak.
Not entirely, but yeah. So some of the highly creative things that ROM hacks can do, ROM hacks can do things that GameFreak just can't, and some of the things that they do that GameFreak could, they won't, because it's already a thing.
Should we move on to the plug section? Because I know you've got something you want to talk about.
Go on then. Yes, I should have a video out this Friday, depending on whether Lewis got round to it or not. It's a little bit different from my channel. We're doing a what if video.
Oh, I love what ifs. Okay.
So all the what ifs I've ever seen about Pokemon revolve around the anime, which makes sense because the anime has a distinct story. I did a what if around Pokemon Red and Fire Red, and it's what if Red joined Team Rocket. Like, how would that work as a game? How would that game have played out? How would the story of Red continued, given that you as a player have multiple options of what you can do and where you can go? It took a lot of work to figure it out.
Okay.
I think I landed on something that's quite good.
Okay. I'm like, is it a long video?
It's about 20 minutes long, yeah.
Okay, right, that's good. Okay, I'm looking forward to that. And I'm working from home Friday, so I know what I'm doing on my lunch break. Live.
Look forward to it.
Fantastic. I'll just quickly plug the Infinite Fusion series that I'm doing. I'm racing against British Eagle, who has been on before. And if you watch any of my YouTube videos, you'll know that 80% of my content is with him. And we're racing through the Kanto region, fusing all manner of Pokemon to create monstrosities and strange hybrids to see who can beat the game first. And we're having that much fun that we've decided, we're not stopping the Elite Four. We're going to go all the way into the Johto region, so which has an amazing twist at the end. I'm not going to spoil it.
I didn't even know you could go to Johto in that game.
Yeah, you can go to Johto. It's absolutely fantastic. And so what they've done is they flipped, obviously, what Gen 2 did with you start in Johto, then you end in Kanto. This one, you do Kanto for the most part how you do it in the original game, and then when you get to Johto, they've completely changed it. So you don't go, okay, you're at Johto at New Bark or whatever the first starting town is.
Mm-hmm.
You get the train, you end up in Goldenrod, and then you have to go from there. And it's absolutely fantastic what they've done with that game. And the end is, you know how you have the moments in Gen 2 where you go to the top of the mountain and Red is at the top, and it's like, like, this has their version of that, and it works really well within the context of the game, to the point where I remember just being like, oh my lord, this is like mind-blowing right now. Absolutely loved it, but a great fan-made game. And that's the show for this week. If you've gotten this far, you're just top dollar, aren't you? If you've got a comment or question, you can reach us by leaving a comment on our podcast on YouTube, by emailing goldenrodpod@gmail.com, by leaving it on our Discord channel, by using the hashtag goldenrodpod on Twitter or X. Before you go, of course, we'd really appreciate if you could leave a review on the podcast platform of your choice. If you're watching on YouTube, then please leave a like. It really helps out our podcast. Conor, where can we find you?
You can find me on my YouTube channel at Captain Fidget or on Twitter at CapFidget. Not X, never X. Don't ever call it X again.
Okay, you did look very angry. I'm Ben. You can find Professor Hogan Gaming on YouTube and Professor Hogan on Twitter. We'll be back next Friday for another week of Pokemon podcast content.
See ya.
Bye.
Sorry.